Hello, town meeting members. It's my privilege to present to you the FY26 school budget on behalf of the Lexington School Committee. In this presentation, I'll talk about budget challenges in context, our allocation, enrollment, and budgetary pressures. The budget pressures we're facing in Lexington are not unique. Student needs are rising, statewide educator contracts are more costly, and post-pandemic expenses for goods and services have increased significantly. Many neighboring towns have had to seek operating overrides in the past 3 years, with some requesting a second override just 3 years after passing their first. With a new high school on the horizon, we recognize the implications for taxpayers, and we're doing everything that we can to avoid an override. In the last bullet on this slide, you will see a link to a letter from United for Our Future, a broad coalition of education organizations, educators' unions, parent-teacher associations, advocacy groups, and civil rights leaders. They are calling for immediate and decisive action from Governor Healy and the legislature to address the pressing funding crisis in Massachusetts public schools. They say that Massachusetts is facing a perfect storm of factors that make it nearly impossible to balance budgets without reductions that will have a negative impact on student learning. Many communities are facing devastating budget cuts to student programs and staff due to rising costs that far outpace available funding, with higher costs in special education tuition and student transportation. Through the revenue allocation process, LPS will receive an additional $5.5 million to add to our base budget. This brings our total LPS allocation for FY26 to $146,033,333, which is a 3.93% increase. As we look at annual budget increases over time, we see a significant reduction at a time when costs are, in fact, increasing, which is due in part to Chapter 70 funding as well as other factors. Schools are a human endeavor, and approximately 86% of our school budget goes to salaries and wages, leaving just 14% for expenses. Salaries are increasing by 5.24% in FY26. Given that we're receiving a 3.9% increase in our total allocation, this means that reductions are necessary, including reductions to the expense line by approximately $806,000. Slide 6 shows a breakdown of salaries and wages by bargaining unit. To present a balanced budget to you, and in addition to substantially increasing the use of the circuit breaker fund balance, we identified approximately $3.5 million in reductions to cover the combined shortfall. This included the following actions. We had to further reduce our high-risk list for 2 years in a row at about $1.2 million. Last year, we reduced it as well. This high-risk list is for students who may be in need of outplacements in the system. So essentially, we're taking away one of our safety nets in terms of budgeting. Next, we had to reduce professional development lines by $200,000. We reduced expense lines by approximately 10 to 25%, which is about $800,000. We consolidated administrative jobs that are not student-facing to free up 2 full-time equivalents, which will be an annual savings of about $220,000. We consolidated elementary and middle school classrooms to free up around 12 full-time equivalents, and that is a savings of a little over $1 million. And finally, we increased the use of the transportation revolving account, which gave us an additional $150,000. Next, I'll talk about 3 main budget drivers, which are enrollment, student move-ins, and changes in student disability type. Enrollment is a key budget driver, and we are seeing stable numbers in elementary and middle schools and higher than anticipated numbers at the high school, although overall enrollment was projected to decline by approximately 21 students, and it actually decreased in 24-25 to 6 students. So numbers are stable. Next, we'll examine the number of full-time equivalent staff by unit or category. We have 89 more FTE in FY26 than we did in FY22. A closer look at these data indicates that approximately 96% of these increases come from special education IEPs, 504s, caseload or contract requirements. And in the past 2 years, we've had a higher number of move-ins than in prior years, and many with a higher level of need. In the past 2 years, we've actually seen approximately 50 full-time equivalents added, to meet these student needs, which is approximately 25 or more staff hired each year that were not anticipated. This is atypical and it is not yet a trend, which makes planning and budgeting an extra challenge. While the overall total of special education students in the district hasn't changed much, the disability types have. Before I talk about this in more depth, though, I want to pause for a moment to underscore the fact that the students who come to us, whether they're coming to us from a shelter or from another place or coming to us with special needs, they are first and foremost children. They are human beings. They are not numbers. If a child comes to us with a need, it is our moral obligation to do whatever we can to address that need and support them and give the child the best education possible. We examined the 4 most common disability types from 2014 to 2025. They were communication, specific learning disability, health, and autism. When comparing 2019 numbers to present day, we see a significant increase in the number of children diagnosed with autism, 177 to 237 students. Students with autism typically have more intensive needs and require more staff. Interestingly, the disability type that we see today is almost the exact inverse of what it was in 2014. The autism rates last year were the highest we have seen at 262 compared to 137 in 2014. Conversely, the number of students whose primary disability was in communication last year was 143 compared to 223 in 2014. For comparison purposes, 6 children in the autism program require 1 special education teacher, and each child typically requires a one-on-one instructional assistant. If we add in support services, we could ballpark that 6 children with autism may cost around $500,000. Compare this to the most common disability type in 2014, which was communication. 6 children requiring speech services twice a cycle for 30 minutes in total might cost around $20,000 for all 6 children. And here we share more data with you about the level of need of our students. The big takeaway from this slide is that 148 students in this past year required the highest level of need in terms of services, and that number has almost doubled since 2014 when only 95 students presented with the highest level of need for services. In conclusion, in collaboration with town officials, we're working to anticipate the financial pressures driving increasing costs on multiple fronts, along with potential funding sources. We're carefully examining and revising our budget and engaging a third-party consultant to conduct a special education district review or an audit to look at programming and identify potential cost savings and efficiencies. These proactive measures will help us find new and improved ways to control costs while continuing to deliver a high-quality education to all of Lexington's children. I also want to point out that budgeting isn't just about setting limits. It's also about making the things that inspire us possible. Our FY26 LPS budget includes continued funding for the many teaching and learning opportunities that are second to none here in Lexington, and those will continue. We are proud of what we can offer to our community thanks to their generous and ongoing support. We'll continue to do all that we can to control spending and provide our students with what they need to succeed. And we are so deeply grateful for your support, and we look forward to sharing our students' educational journey with you in the upcoming year. And before I depart, I want to say a special thanks to Dave Coelho, Adrian Leone, Kathleen Kim, Tracy McMillan, Deb Harvey, Mike Donegan, Bruce Ryder, Sarah George in my office, and so many more people who do so much to help us get this budget through and keep things on track for our students. And one final word is that we want to leave you with our talented LPS student artists' artwork. They are amazing, and we're really lucky to have them in our schools. So thank you for sharing them with us, and thank you so much for your time and attention.